Hello and good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Vivek Goel, your nephrology faculty at Doc Tutorials. I hope you can all hear and see me. If yes, kindly just give me a thumbs up on the YouTube chat so that I'm good to go. Hello and good morning. Yes, thank you, Saurabh. So I'll just take a confirmation from the tech team and then we shall start. All right. Yes. So yeah. So now that I've got a thumbs up from the tech team, a very good morning once again to all of you. This is Dr. Vivek Goel, your nephrology faculty at Doc Tutorials. And the agenda for today's YouTube live session is a pre-seed selection for nephrology super specialty, that is your DM and your DRNB counseling session. So basically, the agenda of this session is to welcome you all, first of all, and congratulate you all for having conquered the very, very difficult NEET super specialty entrance examination. And to all those of you who've got your ranks that you wanted, a big, big thumbs up and a big, big pat on your back. For those who did not do well, please do not get disheartened. Remember, our life is a marathon race. It's not a 100 or 200-meter sprint. So there's always a next time. So what are the things that one needs to keep in mind before one selects a seat? First of all, why does we need to choose nephrology? And if we choose nephrology, what are the points that we must ponder upon? We must think upon before choosing a particular institute, be it the DM course or the DRNB course. Now, whatever things that have included in this presentation are actually those questions that have been asked by you, the students, only to me over the last week at WhatsApp or on the Facebook or at different social media platforms. So, I have compiled those very queries and the FAQs, and I have tried to answer all those questions, of course, in a broader sense, because ultimately it is a very, very relative choice. So first and foremost, yes, you have done it. So a very, very big congratulations to all of you. A very, very big congratulations to all of you. But again, a word for those who could not do it this time. Please remember that it might be the first attempt for very many of you. You might have been doing your medicine residency, which is quite hectic at a few places. You might have not been sensitized because you did not join any platform like ours. And so there is where our role comes into play. We are there to hold your hand and take you through the journey. So do not get disheartened. This session will also at least instill in you the inspiration and the aspiration to be a topper in the very next exam, which is again a few months away. And you will again, I'm pretty sure, attend the winner YouTube live session, as many of us already did, by scoring a very good rank the very next time. So the let us begin with the very first question that very many of you ask me or ask yourself, that why nephrology? Sir, why is it that you are taking us towards nephrology? Or sir, why is it that some relatives are suggesting us, or maybe a doctor colleague or a friend or a senior is suggesting us that take up nephrology? So first and foremost, if nephrology is a suggestion by the relatives, if nephrology is something which you did not think of earlier while doing your medicine residency, but you've got a rank which now allows you to take up nephrology and now makes you think about nephrology, then I would really ask you and request you to question your choice. Because the first and foremost reason to choose nephrology, and for that matter, any subject, should be sheer love for it. It is the love for the subject, because remember, it is just like your spouse. This super specialty subject will remain with you throughout your life. And just like if you choose the wrong spouse for your life cannot, your life, instead of being a bed of roses, it could be a bed of thorns. Similarly, if you choose a wrong subspecialty, if you choose a wrong super specialty, you may not be end up happy, because on every Monday, on every day, you need to get up from sleep charged up all to be ready to go to the hospital and see all the patients. So the love for the subject is the ultimate thing. Next, I feel very many of my colleagues from different specialties may differ slightly, that nephrology is probably closest to the internal medicine. Now, I, being a nephrologist, and very many of my nephrology colleagues relate to me, and we have this mutual thing that we actually all had the intense love for internal medicine. And because we are now ending up doing a super specialty, in nephrology is one of those branches which is perhaps closest to the internal medicine, because you will be seeing a whole lot of CKD patients, which you have already seen in medicine. But of course, you will manage it at a notch higher. You will see a lot of infections in transplant patients, which again, you already had seen in internal medicine, even more so than you had seen in your medicine residency. You will be managing all kinds of electrolyte disorders, which is perhaps an enigma still to many of us. The exact calculation, the exact doses, the exact rate of administration, which we already have done, but we do aspire to, achieve mastery over it. So, nephrology is one of those branches which gives you the permission, which gives you the purview of all these things. You get a good thing of diabetes, of course, diabetes being the bread and butter. You get hypertension, almost every patient. You get CKD, you get post-transplant, a whole gamut of things. You get dialysis, which is fairly new, which many of us were not exposed to during our medicine residency. So yes, it is, I think, the closest to internal medicine. That is the reason why I chose nephrology. Next, it has a balanced interventional component. Now see, our branch, though being a non-surgical branch, that is a medicine as a whole, we also are including more and more interventions into it. Reason number one is it includes a lot of thrill, a lot of things to do, and interventions mean actively curing the patient, not just controlling the disease. Secondly, it has a lot of financial incentives. Let me be very honest. Whenever there are interventions, yes, you may earn an OPD consultation fee might be 1,000 or 1,500 or maybe an 800 at some places. But when you do an intervention, that of course is a costly affair for the patient. And that is where you can generate a bit more of the financial remuneration. So that is why intervention is something which is really becoming more and more attractive to physicians. Now, when I talk about certain subjects like cardiology, it has almost become an interventional subject because a non-invasive cardiologist in the times to come will almost probably cease to exist. Similarly, a subject like gastroenterology, you might have heard already Dr. Prashant Gandhi sir speaking about the different interventions. You have the scopies, of course, the colonoscopy and the endoscopy. You have the ERCP, you have the HVPG, you have the liver biopsies and whatnot. So a fair bit, in fact, a decent bit of interventions are there in gastroenterology as well. On the other end of the spectrum, you have the endocrinology. So in the endocrinology branch, there is almost no interventions. So if you are an intervention phobic person, that would be your branch. If you are an intervention loving person, of course, cardiology and gastroenterology would be more of your loving branches. Now, somewhere in the middle is nephrology. You have something which is known as a balanced interventional environment. Why? You have something like a kidney biopsy. You have something like a permacath insertion, a central venous catheter insertion, that is a dialysis catheter. Then you have the AV fistula creation, the fistuloplasty, and the different, AV access related procedures that are being conducted and that are becoming increasingly more and more being conducted by the nephrologist. Then you also have the bedside PD catheter insertions. At some places, even the PD catheter insertion in the OTs is done by the semi-open technique by the nephrologist. So there again, it is including more and more things in nephrology as well. So I think nephrology is somewhere in between. So it has a balanced environment with respect to interventions. Now, again, with respect to emergency and OPD. Now, see, when I talk about endocrinology, it is fairly an OPD dependent or an OPD dominant branch. When I talk about cardiology, it is again a emergency dominated branch because acute coronary syndromes, the arrhythmias. So you need to be high. You need to be high on adrenaline most of the times. You may get a call at 3 a.m. in the night, and you need to be on your toes at every moment. That of course has its own thrill. Similarly, nephrology, I think, has a decent kind of a balance between emergency because your advanced CKD patients, your dialysis patients, they can develop emergencies, they can develop pulmonary edema, they can develop hyperkalemic emergencies, they can develop cardiovascular adverse factors. So all those are definitely a part of the emergency component. And a decent and a very good portion, that is the stable CKD patients. Then you have the glomerular diseases, you have the post-transplant follow-ups. So you have a fair bit of the OPD component as well. Of course, yes. So it is a very good mix and match of both the things. Next is high demand. Now, there is a terminology used very often by our colleagues, by our juniors, that is the word is saturation. Now, I do not like to use that word. Now, for the lack of a better word, what I feel that nephrology is still relatively has a higher demand compared to some of its counterparts. I wouldn't say all. Now, nephrology is still, so to say, undersaturated, especially in the second and third tier cities, because most of the nephrologists, that too is true for the other branches as well, are concentrated in the first tier cities. But a decent amount of nephrologists even today are traveling from Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, from Bangalore to the suburbs on weekends or say bi-monthly, and they are bringing in or they are catering to a lot of patients in the suburbs. So if you are ready to settle in the second and third tier cities, then there is no end to the practice that you can build to. Of course, in the first tier cities as well, there is of course a lot of options, but again, there is a fair bit of a saturation. I'm so sorry, I'm using that word for the lack of a better word. Next is research prospects. Now, of course, that would be true for other branches as well. But speaking for nephrology, nephrology has a very, very good research prospect. A lot of international and national bodies and forums have already been made since decades, and many are being made even today. You have the different Indian and international societies of organ transplantation, of nephrology, of hemodialysis, of peritoneal dialysis, and you may become a a life member of these organizations. You can attend conferences, and you can definitely contribute to researches. Though a purely research oriented branch would be not that popular in our country, but if you are ready to go abroad, then there is no end to it. Hypertension, nephrology, CKD, transplant, and all these things are very, very booming things, very, very booming aspects, where you can devote your career, in fact, to research. Next is good quality of life. Now, speaking from personal experience, definitely nephrology allows you to lead a good quality of life. Again, I do not mean otherwise for other branches. That of course would be including a very good life as well, but nephrology also includes a very good quality of life, of course, due to the aforementioned reasons. Now, the next question is perhaps the most burning questions in the minds of the students who are watching this session, or who have got a rank and who are pondering about taking a seat. Sir, what do I choose? Do I choose DM or do I choose DRNB? Now, there is no better way to answer this question than to state some facts and to state the entire picture in front of you. And then, you need to make your own choice, because nobody else should make the choice. Now, going through the 2021 NEET SS seat allotment, there were approximately 279 seats under the nephrology subspecialty, out of which approximately 160 or 158 were belonging to the DM, and approximately 120 or one or two here and there belonged to the DRNB category. Now, so in the around 3 to 4 years previously, what the trend used to be was that the toppers, beginning from the rank 1 up to wherever it was available, would choose DM over DNB. That is no doubt that this was the previous trend. But sir, now is the trend same? I would slightly differ here. Why? Because I believe in the golden rule that you should go for the institute rather than the course. Sir, what do you mean by that? You should target the college, you should target the institute or the hospital where you want to pursue, rather than the tag of the DM or the DRNB you should be pursuing. Why? Because in today's age and era, it hardly matters, or I may say so, that it does not matter that you are a DM or a DRNB. It only matters that you are a nephrologist, and from which institute. That also carries a lot of weightage, because that it will reflect upon your training, it will reflect upon your confidence, it will reflect upon the skill you acquire to do certain procedures which you need to do post becoming a consultant. And how do you choose the institute? I will tell you in the next slide. The next thing is, people ask me that, sir, does my doing a DM or a DRNB affect my job prospects, affect my salary, or affect the city that I'm going to settle into? Now, let me be very honest. As I told you, it does not matter what you have done. Of course, it matters the institute where you have passed, as I have already told you. The job prospects. Now, again, it may be my biased opinion, someone might differ, but what I believe is, if you are looking for a purely government job, if you are looking to enter into the academic service and you want to ascend up the tier of becoming an assistant professor, associate professor, professor, and HOD of a medical college or likewise, then it is better you go for a DM course. That is what I believe. But if you are willing to go for a private practice, if you are willing to join a corporate hospital or maybe build up your own practice, have your own center, it does not matter which institute you have passed. I mean, does not matter what degree or or prefix before nephrology you have, whether it's a DM or DRNB, it's all the same. In fact, certain corporate hospitals even prefer, I know of certain corporate hospitals, I've heard through my friends and colleagues that they prefer DRNB over DM, because in DRNB, because the DRNB course is available in lot many NB accredited corporate hospitals and private hospitals. So because you having worked there, you already are acquainted with the private setup, you are already acquainted with the how the scheme of things work, how do you counsel patients in a private hospital, and a lot of other things which you only learn when you work in that setup. So each of it has its own pros and cons. There is no absolute answer. It is for you to make the decision based upon all the parameters that I have told you and I'm going to tell you. Okay. Next. Now, okay, one more question that very many have, because this time it was a medicine based exam and you've got a common rank list, so you do not know that the people above you will take up which subject, the people below you will take which subject, and it will all affect which subject you are going to take. Now, for all practical purposes, if you want to stick to nephrology, what my what my suggestion or what my thought process could be, seeing the previous 2 years seat allotment, what I have felt is, or in the previously where this similar format was conducted, is one in every 4 to 6 aspirants chose nephrology. So, if I take a middle number, say 5, so out of every 5 students, one will take up nephrology. If I think that ways, and if you have around 280 seats, then I think you should be getting nephrology within a rank of 1400. To be on the very safer side, I think people who have got a common rank within 11 or 1200 can get nephrology. That includes all the seats throughout the country. But of course, if you want to get into the top 100 seats of the DM DRNB, then it is much better that you are within the rank of 400 to 450. But again, this is very, very trend specific. This changes. This is not constant. And it depends on the choice of the people who are opting each year. Next, how do I choose an institute? What institute do I choose? What are the factors that I need to keep in mind? Now, these are certain factors that I have diligently thought over, which I also kept in mind while I was choosing an institute. So what are those? Number one, it is the case load. It is the patient load in the IPD and in the OPD. See, ultimately, your biggest teachers are your patients. You have the book, that is Brenner's textbook of nephrology, that you can buy even before entering into a course, and that of course you will buy after entering into the course. But the difference between after you join an institute is you will start seeing the patients you were reading in the books. So only when you have a variety of cases that you get to see in your IPD and your OPD, do you get to understand the case better, and that becomes a lifelong memory. So an institute or a medical college who has a decent amount of beds which are allotted to nephrology and who has a good OPD turnover, I think is a very, very good and important point before you choose any institute. So patient load, including both IPD and OPD, is very, very important. Now, a word here about the OPD. Now, definitely in most of the DRNB institutes, where many of them are private institutes, the OPD load given to the residents will be significantly less compared to the people who are pursuing DM in medical colleges, which are of course government medical colleges. Because I'm not talking about the private ones here, because there you will get to see a whole lot of patients and you will be the decision maker, so you get to learn more. So on the OPD bit, the DRNB people who specifically are doing from the private and the corporate hospitals, they do have a deficiency or a lack that is beyond doubt. Next is academics. Now, a well-structured academic program is very necessary for your super specialty training. So, in where most medical colleges, most medical colleges, they have a good structured programs. On one day, they have a case presentation, you have a journal club presentation, you have a seminar club, you have maybe a dialysis or a transplant meet. So it is again a well-structured academic program that is very, very necessary, because academics will ultimately help you grow and will help you manage your patients better. Next thing is the availability of interventions, that is biopsy, fistula, permacath insertion, dialysis catheter insertion, which I think is prevalent in most of the institutes which are conducting this super specialty program. So doing a biopsy, doing a dialysis cath, doing a permacath should not be a problem in most of the institutes. Now, for permacath, getting a C-arm. Now, that is the best way to insert a permacath, that is under a C-arm. Now, that would be limited in certain cases, but again, you have makeshift arrangements. So most people insert it ultrasound guided and they get an X-ray post insertion. So that, of course, is subject to availability. But with regard to fistula, now in most places, fistula making is a domain of the surgeons. Very few institutes in the country allow the residents to make fistula, that is the nephrology residents I'm talking about. So if you have the added advantage of learning how to make a fistula, that will only enhance your skill. Next is the investigational backup. Now, very many institutes, specifically the remote government institutes, they may not have a good investigational backup. They may not have a good or a self laboratory where they conduct all the autoimmune markers, say the ANCA, say the ANA profile, and they may not be even performing the transplant, even the renal biopsy interpretation. They may not have a good renopath setup. So that again, if an institute has a good renopath setup, that is a good kidney pathology section where there is a renopathologist who interprets the biopsies, so you can very often visit them. You can learn how to interpret the biopsy, because if a nephrologist knows how to read a kidney biopsy, how to interpret a kidney biopsy, that will only enhance his skill, because what you get in the kidney biopsy report sometimes may have to interpret it in a clinical context. So that only can be understood if you know how to read a kidney biopsy, and in fact how to see and visualize a kidney biopsy. Next is transplant. Now, the future and the upcoming era in the field of nephrology is definitely transplant. The entire world is shifting towards transplant, and one is only finding means and ways to increase the donor pool, to increase the recipient pool. And, in fact, so many even smaller setups have started doing renal transplants. So if your institute that you are trying to choose has a very less number of transplants done in a year or per week, then it is likely that you will have lesser exposure of transplant. You will have a lesser exposure of managing post-transplant complications and infections. So that will, of course, affect your residency. So a good transplant program is very, very necessary for a resident to develop and grow in a all 360-degree environment. So transplant, I think, is a very, very important thing. Now, coming to dialysis modalities. Now, you know that you have the hemodialysis, you have the SLED, you have the CRRT, you have the peritoneal dialysis. It could be again the emergency peritoneal dialysis, and of course the CAPD also, and of course the bedside peritoneal dialysis, that is the emergency peritoneal dialysis. So most of the government institutes, they have of course an HD and a PD program, but they lack the CRRT machines in most places. So there, if your institute has a CRRT machine, that is a continuous renal replacement machine, and if you also do if you also have a good running CAPD program, that again is very, very beneficial to you, because and again, on the flip side, the emergency bedside PD, which is a very, very important key feature for every nephrologist to learn is lacking in most of the private and the corporate institutes, because they prefer doing the CRRT and the slide again. So that is very, very important, that having the different dialysis modalities. Next, coming to the faculties. So, more the number of faculties in your nephrology residency program, then it gives you more opportunity to interact with them and to learn from them, because it is the teachers who ultimately teach you and make you better resident. See, because ultimately on every resident, there is a reflection of his or her mentor or guide, because his practice, his way of seeing patients, his way of prescribing medicines will ultimately in one way or the other induce or reflect in some way upon his resident. So having better number of faculties, having a bigger faculty panel, of course, helps. Next is the number of residents. Now, by number of residents, I mean there must be a decent number of residents in your nephrology program that you are trying to choose. Say in certain places there is only a one or a two or only two seats there. So there, it can get very hectic at times, because there might not be that much amount of work, but because it gets divided only in two residents, then it can be a bit hectic, because you may not get, you have to do alternate night calls, you may not get maybe off or a holiday at time that you recently wanted. So it can really be taxing and, have an impact on your mental state. So, having a good number, that is a 3 or a 4 or a 5, of course helps. But again, having even more than that will ultimately cut down upon the exposure that you will have per resident. So, again, you must have a middle ground, not neither too much nor too less. In fact, most of the institutes have only lesser number of residents when it comes to nephrology. Now, what next point should I keep in mind is the research prospect. Now, most of the good DM colleges and the top DRNB institutes, they do offer you a good research prospect, because it is your bosses who will ultimately, trigger you. They will push you to get your papers published, get your thesis published, attend conferences, write research papers, enter into randomized control trials under, of course, the guidance of your mentors. So having a research oriented environment, having a publication oriented environment is very, very important. So it is always good to inquire about this aspect also when you are asking maybe a senior or a colleague about an institute. The next thing is general culture. Now, personally speaking, it is very, very difficult for me to work in a hostile environment. Though most things have really changed now. Previously it was more not so conducive for the residents, but now almost pan-India things have become better. But still, if you get to hear, about certain branches in certain institute, that certain branches are very toxic. I mean, it shouldn't be so, but, it really aches me to say that this is the brutal reality in certain branches, and you hear a lot of mental trauma, you hear a lot of mental problems among residents. So that should not be. So that should also be a point of concern. That was a point of concern before which I chose my branch at my institute, because that really affects me. Now, this thing cannot be discounted. This is that devil which you cannot ignore and which you cannot, of course, love. This is the bond. Now, most of the places in the country right now have been allotted a post-residency, post-DM bond, ranging from 1 year to 3 years, and certain places even more. Now, most of them also have an affiliated high penalty if you break the bond, which is, of course, very difficult to pay just after passing the residency. So entering into a bonded course means that you will have to do the bond, or you will be doing the bond. Now, at some time, you may not realize right now before choosing that it is, you may be thinking, fine, I'll do it, kar lenge, but it may become a pain later on, because after doing your DM, you already have reached an age of, say, 30, 31, 32, that then you would not want to, and specifically if the bond is in the same institute where you did your DM from, or in a central institute, or in a good institute, then of course you would not mind because you would become a faculty there and it would only add feathers to your cap. But in most places, the bond postings are in peripheral places, in remote places where you do not get enough exposure. And then of course, doing this bond can really be a not so pleasant task. Okay, so bond before choosing an institute, before choosing your college, please take into account the bond thing. And the bond thing also will before and the bond thing also can be decided by choosing the place or the city you are in right now for doing your DM or DRNB, and the place you want to settle in, because that again will affect your choice. Because say supposingly you are going to do or your residency in a city that you already are in and you want to settle in. So then of course doing a bond there may not be that difficult, because while doing the bond again, simultaneously you might try to build up your private practice as well. So that again, then even the bond can be boonful for you. It can be good for you. So that again is a very, very relative thing and you have to make your own choice. Next is stipend. Now, stipend, of course, very many of us are maybe the sole bread earners. It may be important for us to, know about the stipend as well. So stipend again ranges, in northern part of the country, in Delhi, it might be around 1 lakh or even more. In southern part of the country, I know that very many places have a stipend of even lesser than 50,000. But again, the cost of living also differs. So stipend also, it is very important for us to inquire about, to know about in different institutes and different states, what is the stipend, and because that also has a bearing on the way we live. Now, a seemingly minor but important aspect is the language. Now, despite this being a centralized and a one exam for the entire country, I still see that very many people do not want to travel from the northern part of the country to the south, because they don't want to learn Kannada, they don't want to learn Malayali, from anywhere the people don't want to travel to West Bengal because they don't want to learn Bangla. And similarly, language is still a barrier in very many mindsets of people. So you need to overcome this as well. I would suggest you, if you are getting an institute of your choice, a dream institute, language should not be that bothersome for you, because ultimately you will learn, say, in 3 or 4 months, and your residency is 3 year long, and definitely it will offer you much more than the pain you will have to acquire to learn the language. The next thing, which I of course kept in mind before moving in my residency program, is the prospect for spouse. Now, see, we are in that stage of our life where very many of us have already gotten married. Some of us have already have kids. So, it is not, you cannot be very, very selfish and, very, very independent in a way that, I will only think about myself. So, if you've a decent rank and if you have very many institutes at your disposal, you also got to think what your spouse, because your spouse may be a working person, your spouse may be a doctor, your spouse may be a chartered accountant. So what is the working prospect for my spouse? Will she or he get enough opportunities there? Or if you're not married, if you're okay living away for 3 years from your spouse, then of course it's absolutely fine. But this also is one of the points I could think of, because I thought of while choosing my institute. Now, so this was the general idea that I wanted to give you. Now, very many of us ask me about institute specific sites. They ask me, sir, how is a nephrology at SGPGI? How is a nephrology at CMC Vellore? How is a residency at Medanta Gurugram? So, if there is any such insight that you want to ask me, I'm absolutely open. You can type your question in the chat box. I can see a question from Dr. Saurabh. My rank is 1330. What are the good institutes for DNB nephrology at this rank? See, again, the best part is your counseling website on the MCC. It allows you to fill as many choices as you want. So you can start filling in from the toppest institute of DRNB that you want to take, and fill in what all you are taking comfortable, so that anything you may get. But again, your rank is a very, very borderline one. So it is very difficult for you to get the top nephrology DRNB institutes. So If you ask me what are the top institutes of DM and DRNB, I wouldn't want to force upon you my choice. So I would like to show you the counseling, the final seat allotment of 2021 NEET SS. So just see what the toppers have chosen last year. So the rank one has chosen Madras Medical College. Again, you have the Government Medical College Thiruvananthapuram, you have SGPGI, you have Government Medical College Kozhikode, you have the IGIMS, you have the CMC Vellore, you have the RML Hospital, you have the Nizam Telangana. Again, you have RML. Then you have IKDRC, which is in Ahmedabad. You have SGPGI, RML, Madurai Medical College, Topiwala, Kozhikode, Stanley Medical College, CMC Vellore. Then you have IKDRC we've done. So if you just see, going by the stats and going by what your seniors chose, if you see the top 10, 15 institutes were the Madurai Medical College, the Madras Medical College, SGPGI, Government Medical College, Kozhikode, you have the RML in the north, you have the Stanley Medical College in Chennai, you have the Topiwala TNMC in Mumbai, you have IKDRC, which is excellent in Ahmedabad. So, these are the things. And I think most of these choices are mostly guided by demography because, we already have entered into certain comfort zones. So a person living in Delhi wouldn't want to leave Delhi. And of course, there is no bond in Delhi. So, most institutes have bonds except for as far as I know, the RML Delhi and the BHU Varanasi. And of course, the DRNB institutes, they do not have a bond. So, a person living in Delhi might not want to leave Delhi. So he's chosen RML, who was say rank 12 here. Again, rank 1 and 2 have chosen MMC, Madras Medical College. So that perhaps he or she might be resident of Chennai only. That is why he's got it. Then you have the people who have chosen IKDRC. It's a very good college, of course. And so people from all over the country travel to that college. And then you have the SGPGI, again, in Lucknow. Of course, it is one of the apex institutes there, but very many of us may have traveled across because it's a very good institute. So just a moment, I'll take more questions, but before that, let me discuss about some DRNB institutes as well. So all these were DM institutes. All these were DM. What else apart from these? Then you have the Osmania Medical College from the Hyderabad. This is again a wonderful college. Then you have the Bombay Hospital. You have among the DNB courses, the first seat that was chosen went to the Medanta Gurugram. Perhaps she was a resident of the Delhi NCR, so she didn't want to leave it. Now, then you have the SMS Jaipur, again, a wonderful college in Rajasthan. You can opt for it. In the DNBSS, you had the Medanta, then Jaslok Hospital, Mumbai, wonderful caseload there. People choose it. So probably that person was maybe a resident of Mumbai, or she's chosen out of the love for Jaslok. Then you have the Mujlibai Hospital at the Nadiad. This again is one of the bestest institutes for doing a DNB program. According to me, one of the probably the best DNB institute to do nephrology. Then you have among the DNB institutes, what other things people chose? You had the Gangaram Hospital, which was again one of the apex institutes, one of the better hospitals, a good blend in the DNB program. Then you, of course, among the DM institutes, you had the IPGMER in the Kolkata, which has increased seats also recently, a wonderful caseload there. Then you also had the INU, the Institute of Nephrourology. You had the Gandhi Medical College, you have the Government Medical College, Kottayam, Kerala. So very many institutes were there. Of course, I'm missing a few also, but these are the top 10, 15 institutes, which I am not suggesting you. This is what the statistics say. And most of the people, the toppers, choose these only. Among the DNB institutes, again, I mentioned the Manipal Hospital, Bangalore. One of my colleagues did it from there. And I recently, and I have heard very good insights about that institute as well. So likewise, you have very many institutes. And if you want more institute specific insights, I am definitely available. I can even connect you to a person from that institute, and you can get personal You can get one-on-one experience from the person, or I will try to help you as much as I can. Yeah. So Shashank asks, my rank is 1373. Can I go for Nadiad? Can I go is definitely you can go. Will you get it? I am not sure, Shashank. But definitely Nadiad should be one of the best, one of the colleges which you must opt for if you are wanting nephrology. Nadiad is a very good institute, Mujibhai Patel Hospital. So Dr. Pallavi asks me, with a rank of 454, is there a chance of Gangaram or Manipal Bangalore? Also, what would be a better option amongst the two? Now, Dr. Pallavi, I would say that definitely there is a very good chance. So if we keep the same ratio in mind, that 1 in every 5, so I think you will be among the top 100 people who will be choosing nephrology. And going by statistics, definitely you will have a chance of getting Gangaram and Manipal Bangalore both. Now, what would be a better option? I would say both are very good. Very little difference between the two. Both do not have bonds. The stipend at Gangaram is around 1 lakh. The stipend at Manipal is around 50,000. Where do you want to settle? That again is a matter of thing. Where is your family? In the northern part of the country or Manipal, Bangalore? Are you okay to learn Kannada if you do not already know it? That's an issue. I think exposure is very good in both. Both have a decent amount of transplant, more than 150 in both institutes. 100% I know that. And both have a very good structured academic program. Both have very eminent faculties. So, I cannot just choose one among the two. Both are very good. So it will be very relative choice, and you can choose either of the two. Shashank says, is there a chance I will get Mujibhai Patel at 1373 rank? Shashank, it's very difficult. The trend changes each time, but for Mujibhai Patel, I think at a rank of 1373, please do not get disheartened. I think you will be around between 150 to 200 rank for people opting for nephrology. So again, it's a borderline choice. I really can't say, but you may get, but you may not get also. You may not get also. I'm not pretty sure, because Mujibhai Patel Nadiad is one of the higher choices which toppers opt for while choosing nephrology. Rahul Rajan says, my rank is 756. Will I get DM or DRNB nephrology at a good institute? Definitely, Rahul. I think you can get a DRNB nephrology at a very good institute. DM nephrology at the top institute, which we have just discussed, is a bit difficult. So if you are strictly adamant about DM, then you can get in private hospitals. You can get in some certain peripheral hospitals, but DRNB, I think you should get at good institutes. So if you have any more questions, I'm most available. You can definitely ask me. And so beginning with the talk that I was continuing with, so you can, continue to post questions if you want to. What are the prospects after DRNB or DM? So what does one do after passing a DRNB or DM, which also is a question that very many of you have asked me in my chat box. Number one, sir, job. Definitely, both government and private jobs you can opt for. You can enter into a medical college, you can enter into a government institute, you can enter into academic structure, and you can get up the hierarchy. You can also join a private corporate hospital after passing through a DM, DRNB nephrology. There are plenty of options available throughout the country. You can move cities. You can be in your own city. If you want to quickly build up a practice and, build up finances and wealth, you can even move to a second or third tier city. Again, that I told you, the sequence remains the same. If you want to opt for a government job, enter into the medical education service, I would say DM better than DRNB. But again, not that DRNB wouldn't get. If you do DRNB from a good institute like Nadiad, like Gangaram, like Medanta, like Manipal, there shouldn't be a problem. Absolutely, you can be taken into a government institute as well, because each of them I mentioned are above 500 bed. And according to the clause mentioned by the NB, if you do a DNB from a hospital which is above 500 bedded, that is equivalent to doing an MD or a DM. Next, if you opt for a private, if you want to go for a private or corporate setup, again, that should not be a difference, but I think this slightly has an edge. Of course, you can set up your own practice. Very many people, especially in the peripheral setup, in the second, third tier setup, people want to build up an own practice. They want to build up their own clinics. They want to set up own dialysis centers. That, of course, is an option you can do. Now, fellowship, post DM fellowship is now becoming an increasing fashion or a vogue among us. Now, this was already prevalent amongst our neurology and cardiology colleagues. So we have been hearing that, yeah, this person is has done his fellowship in, say, movement disorder, in epilepsy, in demyelinating disorder, in stroke, on whatnot. This person has done his fellowship in, say, interventional cardiology, or maybe in the arrhythmias and stuff like that. But now, over the last 5 years, now subspecialization in nephrology has also becoming more prevalent. Now people are starting to enter into certain zones, say glomerular diseases, or transplant, or dialysis, or even vascular access, PD. So these are the different fellowships or the subspecialties that people are starting to enter into fellowships. There are certain institutes in India that offer fellowships post DM, like your SGPGI offers you fellowship in the transplant, which is a 1-year program. Your definite that then there are very many international fellowships. A lot of eminent universities in Toronto, Canada, is a very big host where a lot of nephrology people go to and do fellowships in transplant, in glomerular diseases. So that again is a very relative choice. You may go opt for it, but yes, after 10 years, you will see that this trend has almost becoming compulsory, like or maybe even earlier, like our neurology and cardiology colleagues. Research, I have mentioned time and again, research is something, you must, until you publish, you perish. This is the statement our teachers have taught us. So research is something, original research you must do, and you must enrich your own field. So because that is what your contribution to the literature and to the subject will be. Now, financial implications. Now, I always believe that, you only be a philosopher after you are rich. So, very many people, they refrain from talking about finances or money. But I, being a very practical person, I know that money is a very important component of a happy living. So all of us have studied so much, all of us have invested our 15, 16 years. Definitely we want a decent or good remuneration. I don't tell you that run after money, but yes, definitely you must have a decent amount of money that can, suffice for all your interests and needs and even your leisures. So, the money that the jobs offer you in different institutes, again, in government institutes, it depends on the policy of the government. In central institutes, it is a very good salary that they offer with a lot of perks that is almost equivalent to 2 lakhs or even more. Now, coming to the corporate or the private hospitals, what I know about in the central and the northern part of the country, that yes, they do offer, just after passing your DM, DRNB, they offer anywhere between 1.5 to 2.5 lakhs, depending upon the place and the hospital and your qualification. Now, I do know that certain hospitals, specifically in the southern part of the country, they even offer less. But yes, just after passing, you can easily expect a salary from 1.5 lakh to 2.5 lakhs by any hospital. That is just, and the rest is, the sky is the limit. You can build up your own OPD practice, and then you can only, you not have enough time to even count them. So this is all that I wanted to discuss with you. And yes, thank you so much for your patient listening. I will definitely answer some of the queries that are not answered yet. Please feel free to contact. This is my Twitter ID and this is my WhatsApp number. I know I had been slightly less active over the last few days at WhatsApp due to a personal health problem. I really apologize for that. But now I'm all ears. If you have any problem, you can ask me and I will try to help you with the best of my ability. So Pallavi asks me, sir, you could suggest the maybe top 5 DNBs that one should go for the sequence. So answering Pallavi's question, the best DRNB institutes that come to my mind right now, I wouldn't say that these are the in order because there is no sequence. There is no sequence as such. I would definitely keep the Muljibai Patel Hospital Nadiad as one of them in the top 5. I would keep the Sir Gangaram Hospital, New Delhi. I would keep Jaslok, Mumbai. I would keep Manipal Hospital, Bangalore. What else? Among the best institutes for DRNB. Wait, let me just have a look at the list so I don't miss one. I don't want people from that institute or students telling me later on that, sir, you didn't write our institute. Wait, I'll just check once to answer Pallavi's query. Yes, Hinduja I've already mentioned. Yes, so Pallavi, I would like to keep it to this, and maybe I would also like to add the Medanta Gurugram. And that again, I have not made it a personal list. This is the top 5 institute which students have also chosen according to the last year's merit list. So this is also my list in no particular order. All of them are very good. You can choose according to your own demography, your place of settling, your language preferences, and your monetary and stipend preferences. So these would be the better ones. Saurabh says, sir, will you share your WhatsApp number? Just like Prashant Gandhi sir did. Yes, I have already shared my WhatsApp number, Saurabh. This is my Twitter ID also that I have mentioned for you all. So is there any other question? Most welcome, Pallavi. Most welcome. Is there any other question that you want to ask me? I think there are none. So thank you very, very much for patient listening. And it was a pleasure talking to you. And I hope you will get to find some good insights from this presentation of mine that I made for you. And even beyond this, if you feel any query, I am most available. Please contact me. Thank you so much.